Thanks. Good to see everyone. Good morning. Excited to be here. Finally arrived. Feels like just yesterday it was January, and we were getting rolling with this group of young men. We've had really an excellent fall camp. I couldn't say enough about our players and the way they approached it. It was new for everybody, every single day. I've made a comment. Every day was new for me, learning new things about Fresno State, learning new things about some of the traditions and history of the Bulldogs, and then also, some tweaks in scheduling and practice plans and just how we go about our business has been different, but our kids have really bought into what we're doing. They've had great focus, great energy. I could say there might be one practice that I can remember off the top of my head that might have been average, but I feel like we're getting better every single day. And so excited to see what that looks like. It's time for us to play somebody in a different colored jersey. We needed to get a great evaluation of where we're at, and Kansas will provide that most definitely. We're going to go play a well-coached football team. I've got to know Coach Leipold years ago when he was the offensive coordinator at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, Division II school, and have kind of followed his career from stop to stop, him being a small college guy, very similar to myself, but had tremendous success at Whitewater, then went on to Buffalo, had great success there, and then has done an unbelievable job at the University of Kansas, creating excitement, creating wins, getting to bowl games. We're going to get an opportunity to see what they've done with that stadium. You don't do that unless people are excited about what the product you're putting on the field. And so kudos to him and his staff, who I have some connection with. Chris Simpson, their linebacker coach, know him well. It'll be good. I know they're going to be prepared. And like I said, I know they're going to be very well coached and be a challenging outfit as we put our final pieces together this week and get ready to play Kansas. But with that, I'll open it up to questions.
How big a challenge has it been in practice, Coach, to try to simulate the quarterback you're going to go up against on Saturday?
Well, tremendous athlete, does a really good job with the volume of offense that they have. That's one of the things we talked about just here with the defensive unit this morning. Their five-step, their drop back, the quick game, the moving pocket stuff they do in the pass game, but also, I just mentioned a minute ago, Coach Leipold at the University of Nebraska Omaha years ago, which was an option team, and you're seeing some of those fragments of that, but from the gun in their offense right now. And I got to believe he has a little bit of influence in that. And so, being able to contain him, not giving up, scramble rules, unnecessary yardage, he's a huge concern. When he's playing well, he's as good a quarterback as there is out there right now.
And I've heard you challenge the team consistently on a couple fronts. One, to be the best prepared team in the country, and two, to not lose that chip on their shoulder.
Yep.
Now that it's going to be real bullets Saturday, how are they doing on those two fronts?
Well, I think they're listening. They're hearing, from a preparation standpoint, a lot of that falls onto the coaching staff, but also the focus. Practice situations, what can we do situationally in practice to emulate what it's going to look like? Challenge them this morning is we got to find ways to limit the noise and the excitement, because there's going to be a ton of it. Brand new stadium, or I shouldn't say new stadium, but redone stadium, updated stadium, and there's going to be a lot of excitement in regards to that. But also, game one always provides a number of challenges. They have a coach that had been on staff is now becoming the defensive coordinator. Well, I'm sure he's doing some things differently to put his mark on the defense. And so what does that look like? Is there a new designer pressure somewhere? Offensively, what are they going to do in the openers, trade shift motion to try to get us out of position? Because if they identify something, you're going to see it all day. And so trying to make sure we live in the moment, we block out distractions, and we just focus on the football and getting our cleats in the ground and getting ready to play football.
Coach, you touched on the new defensive coordinator over there. What challenges does he bring on Saturday?
Well, that's one of the question marks you have is you can look at what they've done in years past, but what changes, what adjustments, what new coverages, fronts will he implement for the Bulldogs? And then I'm sure at some point, in their mind, they're thinking about what don't they want to show against the Bulldogs, because they got a big schedule, the Big 12 coming up, a couple weeks after that.
And with the new team captains out, how is the team taken to the new team captains?
Good. Those guys they were leaders to begin with. But when I did announce, and one thing we will do, and I'll make the announcement here too, we will probably have a fifth captain every week, a floating captain, someone that's deserving because of production, because of what they've done on the practice field, how they have approached the game, their impact to their teammates. But these four young men have done an outstanding job since I stepped foot on campus. They were four guys that were always in the front. We're always trying to bring people along with them, and I think that's a definite sign of a leader. Is it's not a title, but how do you impact the people around you? And we have a team full of leaders. Sometimes they're not given that title or recognized like that, but Jordan Brown, for instance, would be a young man that is he's a dominant leader, but not necessarily a captain, but he makes people around him better.
Coach, I know you talked about your preparation in fall camp, and you've been getting better every day. So what's kind of just like one word or a couple words to describe this team in fall camp?
I think gritty would be one of them. I think we have a level of toughness, and I'll use the chip on the shoulder. I think they want to prove people wrong. They're excited to get out there and put a good product on the field. And then the other one I would use and I'm most excited about is just the cohesiveness of this group. We have, again, the landscape of college football. We're not alone, but there's probably 40 new faces on this football team. And if you walked in our locker room, you walk out to they're at a walkthrough right now. You don't know who's a fourth or fifth year player and who's a first year player, and I think that shows leadership, from the top to the bottom within our locker room, and the willingness to if we have a genuine appreciation, if you give us great energy and great effort every day, those are two things that are necessary to be a Bulldog.
And then we all have excitement about first week of college football, and just the nerves and excitement for the players getting ready. But this is your first season as an FBS coach. So, what do you kind of feel going into your first week as a head coach?
I'm probably a little. I'm excited. I don't know if I'd say nervous. Just we're better. I don't know what that means. We need something to, we need to evaluate ourselves against somebody else right now. I know we have improved dramatically since January when I stepped on campus, but. Now we need to play somebody else. We need to line up. We need to do it when the lights are on. We tried to emulate that the best we could on Saturday. But I told our players this morning, we're going to get to the stadium a little bit earlier this week, just because it's a new stadium. But I promised them it's 120 yards long. It's 53 1/3 yards wide. It looks just like the one you played on in high school. So the game's the game. I know FBS, FCS, Division II, D3. I mean, it's all relative. It's just that the bodies change, but the game is still the game.
Good morning, Coach. I know you're trying to limit the outside distractions, but are you appreciating the fact that you're playing a week before everyone else almost, and you're playing on a national stage, one of the 4 games on Saturday?
Hadn't really thought of it until you asked me all those things. Just emphasizing it's the next game, so it's the most important one. And we really haven't made hyped up that we're the only game. We hyped up that this is an opportunity for us, and that the only reason that stadium's going to be full is because the Bulldogs are coming to Lawrence. Because if the Bulldogs weren't coming, it wouldn't be full on Saturday. And so our players know what's ahead of them. I think we're trying to maintain a low pad level all week long and just keep doing our thing, and making sure that we are fully prepared and ready to go and healthy when we get there.
I also wanted to ask about the motto, right? Toughness wins. You've been talking a lot about physicality. Yep. Why is physicality important in this specific game against Kansas?
Well, I think it's every game. That's how we want to play. We want to win the line of scrimmage, but we also need we need to be able to execute blocks on the perimeter. We need to be able to block people out of the backfield. We need to be able to break tackles. The game of football, when you break it down, is still, you got to be great at the simple things. And when you look at the game of football, blocking, tackling, breaking, being able to shed blocks, being able to break tackles, that's where games are won. We coaches do a great job of complicating the game and trying to come up with unbelievable schematics, X's and O's. But if you can't execute, you don't have a great base of the fundamentals, it's all for naught. And so I think, when we say toughness, it also we want to be highly trained in all those areas, and that's something that we want to hang our hat on. And when people play us, we want to make sure they know that they played us and they feel the impact of the Bulldogs.
Hi, Coach.
How are we doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Braden Walton earning a starting spot there, the freshman from Buchanan. What did he do to separate himself in fall camp?
It's probably the things that he didn't do that he separated himself. He didn't make freshman errors. He's put himself in a position physically to be ready to play. He has basically recreated himself. You talk about a young man that is all in on being a Bulldog. Sometimes with the recruiting department, we joke he's a blueprint. He's the type of guys we want to have here moving forward. He would be the guy we would show recruits, like, hey, this is going to be you. I think you're seeing the impact of being a premier developmental program and having 8 months with us versus 8 weeks. And so we're going to use it as a selling point. Look what happens when you come be part of this program. You get to work with Coach Crabtree, Coach Davis, Coach Ferentz, speaking to the offensive line type of people we have. You're going to get developed at a high level. You're going to get an opportunity to play. I used to always joke that freshmen, they're eligible and they're healthy. We should play them. And here's a guy that's earned it, and so it's exciting.
What challenges does Kansas's offense present? Obviously, a little bit different than what you've seen in the past from them, but what have you seen so far that you're preparing for?
Well, I think they've had some staff changes, and so how does that impact their play calling? What influence have their new coaches brought in? They do a tremendous job of trying to formation you, X off, unbalanced, try to get you stuck in different calls, water down maybe a little bit of what they do, what teams do defensively. I think they do a really good job of cross personnel. It's 12 personnel, but you see 11 pictures or 10 pictures out there. And then the option piece, with motion, trade shift motion, a lot of motion, orbit motion, planning backs through the backfield, dynamic quarterback who has great understanding of what they want to accomplish. You don't see in today's landscape of college football, you don't see a multi-year starter at quarterback very often, and so kudos to Jalen and Kansas, for being able to retain him and keep him there, and for him to continue to grow. That's going to be a challenge.
Morning, Coach. How are you approaching this game on the road compared to how you would approach a home game?
Of course, the travel's a little bit different. Our Friday will be sped up. We went through a mock game this weekend, but it was more aligned with what a home game would look like. But we won't be far off. I believe in routine. I believe in our players understanding what's next. And so we had a meeting this morning. We kind of talked about what it looks like, pregame meal. We executed one this weekend, a couple tweaks, pregame warm-up. We tweaked it just a little bit this morning. But besides the travel, the plane, it's going to be, once we hit the ground, it's going to be very similar to what we would do at a home game. I'm not going to have a road schedule and a home schedule. We're going to be very consistent.
Coach, aside from Walton, could you share just a bit about this whole offseason, how these five guys came together on your O-line and kind of where they are as a group?
Sure. Had a lot of bodies when we got here. Some of them were coming off season-ending injuries and or post-bowl game surgeries, and so didn't really have a great understanding of what we were going to have at the offensive line or who the personnel were going to be until we hit the summer months, till the month of June. Now, during spring, I think we started to see some pieces start to fall in place. The move of Jacob Spomer to center. We knew that was going to be put our best player, our best communicator, our veteran who has a ton of reps, being kind of the focal point and the head communicator, for what we're doing up front at center would be big. Braden Walton started to open eyes in spring and just kept running with it. And there was great level of competition. And I think you're going to see more than 5 starters or more than 5 players at the offensive line during the course of the game. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw 7 or 8. I still think that we're definitely a work in progress still there. I love where we're at, but I think our best football is still, a ways ahead of us.
And both offense and defense, is there an evaluation of Kansas offensive line and D-line, how this team looks in the trenches compared to a Big 12 opponent?
Sure. They have, I think, 3 returning starters up front. I think their most experienced returning starter is a center. And so, I think anytime you have continuity, you have consistency, it's going to have an opportunity to have success. So, big physical group. I'm sure they're going to want to run the football. Last year they ran it for over 200 yards a game. We're going to need to hold up. That's one area that we feel like that we have improved dramatically is along the defensive front. So it'll be interesting to see how we match up. And then I think they're probably strongest defensively if you look right down the middle of the field. They have great depth at defensive tackle. I know they have a new young man at their Mike linebacker who, from watching previous film, has shown the athleticism, the physicality necessary. And then they have some veteran safeties. They have a young man from Oklahoma State, I think, is playing in the boundary. I want to say his last name's Davis, plays to the field. It's Mason Ellis. It's funny, backup safety. I remember offering him at a camp at a previous stop. And so a lot of familiar names on this Kansas roster, having some Midwest ties. Thank you.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Can you talk about the importance of having Jaden Pearson on your team? Obviously, the linebacker room has sort of shifted the last couple of years for Fresno State. What does it do to have a guy that has as much experience as he does?
Well, I think football is a game of pictures. That's how you get better. You just repetition, and so Jaden's experience it doesn't matter if it's somewhere else or here, was critical in his development and his evaluation. I want to say the other thing that has been, really positive with Jaden is his commitment to being the best version of himself physically. He's probably 15 pounds heavier since when he got here, but we've seen no fall off in his explosiveness or acceleration or his ability to be twitchy on the field. Very vocal, has great understanding of what we're doing defensively, and that's a compliment to Coach Bresky as well, our linebacker coach, who does an unbelievably thorough job. We feel like we have 3 to 4 linebackers that can play, but Jaden, of course, is he's a young man that because of his experience and because of having played a lot of football in his career, we're looking for big things, and again, the leadership piece is critical.
You've sort of indicated at your first press conference that you're going to run the ball a lot. And even though he's not a starter, Rayshawn Luke, listed as the second running back, does he have a vital role in this offense?
He's going to have a huge role in the offense. And again, there's only one football, so you can only get it to one guy at a time. But we're going to utilize a number of different backs. We feel like our running back room has great depth. We feel like our tight end room has great depth. And so I think we got to be able to utilize our personnel the best we can, cross personnel, use Rayshawn as many ways as we can, find ways, unique ways, creative ways to get him the football. Both him and Bryson, they provide kind of a unique set of traits, both of them slightly different, but both very effective players.
Hi, Coach.
How we doing?
Good. How is EJ, I know it's been a short sample size here, but how has EJ kind of responded to being the starter at practice? And then what's going to be your message to him this week, kind of specifically about this game against Kansas?
I'll be honest, the EJ I saw before he was starter is the exact same as he is right now. Very even keel. I got to believe that's probably a little bit of a byproduct of being a football family. EJ understands the ups and downs that the game provides, but at the quarterback position, you need someone who can kind of handle the noise, handle the lights, and just keep operating status quo. He is a film junkie, always watching, always evaluating, has great conversations, great meeting time. All the quarterbacks do with Coach Davis. Kind of a sponge, wants to know, wants the information. So he's been great. As far as just offensively, I've kind of talked in general terms to them is, ball security is going to be a priority. We can't give extra possessions to our opponent. We need to find ways to be able to run the football. But if we're balanced, I'm fine with that. But we need to be able to. We need to get first downs. We need to stay on the field. We need to put some drives together. We need to have some consistency. We cannot beat ourselves with, like I said, negative plays, turnovers, those sort of situations. We got to find ways to get the game moving.
And I'm just curious, in your first game as head coach, you go on the road, play a Power 4 program, opening a new stadium. Do you like that? Do you feel like you kind of had your team's attention all camp knowing that this was the first game?
Oh, I think they do a good enough job alerting themselves of what's in front of them. I probably haven't hyped it up too much. Maybe a little bit this morning. We started. Sometimes you get a little concerned about, making too big a deal out of it, and then the lights and all the noise become the primary concern. I want our kids just to. The only thing I can control is us, and so let's be as ready as we can be. Let's be as healthy as we can be. Let's be as prepared as we can be. Let's have great plans, both offensively, defensively, and special teams, and let's make this thing a 4-quarter game and see where we're at in the end. And if we can do those things and minimize errors and minimize the negative plays, I think we'll hang in there. Just knowing the makeup of this football group and how cohesive they are. They're going to play hard for each other, and that's what I'm excited about.
Hey, Coach.
How are we doing?
Good. So when you prepare for an opponent like this, they seem to dip a lot into the transfer portal. You see the physicality maybe on the tape of what those guys provide physically, but the implementation of them and what they're actually going to look like in the system. How difficult is that preparing for a team you have no tape on basically from what they've done with the guys that have been coming in?
Well, you're exactly right. You don't have any film on a lot of the additional and new guys, and that's just become part of the landscape of college football. What you try to dive into some maybe other film, if they have live reps from somewhere else. If they haven't played anywhere, you're kind of just, trying to figure out what skill set they might have, where they're at on the depth chart. But I know they have a couple new receivers that are coming in that have game-changing speed, the ability to take the top off, make you miss in space. And so, like I said, we've tried to find as much film on everybody as physically possible, and now trying to hypothetically look at how are they going to implement these guys into the game plan, or how would they fit into what they're doing from a schematic standpoint.
And then if you just want to speak on the health from coming out of this fall camp and how the guys have been able to handle, the nicks and cuts and scratch and whatever, everything like that from camp, how would you feel this team is doing in that front going into this game?
I think we've done a good job. We've had a couple, again, the worst part of the game, the part that makes you sick is people do get hurt playing football. We've had a couple guys that have had some significant injuries. Only one at this time, moving forward, will miss the season. But for the most part, relatively healthy. I think we did a good job as a staff of putting together a plan that utilized our off days, unload days, tried to be very analytical with our GPS on where we're at from a load standpoint, from a high-speed day to high-speed yardage and decels, accels, collisions, all that stuff, to make sure that we're taking the well-being of our football team was a priority, but at the same time, balancing it with how can we be a tough football team and how can we make sure we practice right. So, we double repped a lot. We're getting everyone reps. We didn't practice. 2 hours and 20 minutes was the longest practice we had. We had some shorter practices to try to save legs, but mental practice. But I feel like we're in a good spot right now. We got to make sure this week we continue to do a good job. Today will be our last full padded practice leading into Kansas, and then we'll go half pad and then spider for the 2 practices, Wednesday, Thursday, and then a walkthrough on Friday. But I feel good where we're at right now. But we got to get lined up. We got to make sure that we're ready to go. And I think the reason why we double rep is next man up mentality. If we get someone hurt, we'll have someone prepared to step into that spot. You bet. Thank you. Thank you. You guys have a good afternoon.